Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 2 of PODTC. We liked the name, so we're rolling with PODTC. But the first episode that we did was just kind of for fun. This is going to be our first one where we actually take a topic and dive into it. So one thing that has always been kind of a hot button issue and continues to be are just pathways. What are they? Who makes them? Every institution's kind of different. I have a good friend of mine here with me today at Dr. Ashley Maher. Sorry, that is still fairly new. I'm getting used to it. She deserves it, very well deserved. But she is, the queen of pathways at Kent State, but there's not many people I think that do it quite better than her. So she is with us today. How's it going, Ashley?
It's great. Thanks so much. I would like to get a name tag that says Queen of Pathways, though. I'll ask my boss if I can get that.
Yeah, I think Joanna will let you get a Doctor Queen of Pathways name tag, and I think that would be very, very well suited for you. So
very kind of you.
Yeah, I am excited you're here. So
yeah, for
one, you said yes without fighting too much to me inviting you on the podcast,
just a little bit,
which is good for me. Kind of shows us where we are. But I, have some questions for you. I'm hoping that maybe we'll call it Pathways 101. We'll see, but we'll see how far we dive into this. But I'm like I said, I'm super happy you're here. So the first thing that I really I know you fairly well. We met when I started at Kent State in 2020, so virtually, but we were talking about dogs and cats and everything back then, and that pretty much is still what we talk about now.
Pretty much it.
Yeah, but is there, tell the audience about yourself, like whatever you feel like you want to share, but like where you went to school, where you went, how did you get here?
Totally. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Maher. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Partnerships here at Kent State. We are located in the Office of Curriculum Services under the Provost's office. I oversee our degree pathways and our Ohio's transfer initiative compliance here at Kent. So all your C tags, I tags, OT36, OGTPs, all that good stuff. I'm actually originally from Central New York. I earned my Bachelor of Arts in English and Bachelor of Science in Adolescence Education from SUNY Oswego. It is known for its amazing educational opportunity as well as its brutal lake effect snow. It's pretty cold there, and hockey. It's known for hockey as well. And I really love my undergrad experience so much that I just decided that I would never leave higher ed. I think I was, that typical undergrad student, like a lot of us, who had every kind of an internship, work study job in every division that you could name. I tried to do it. I worked in career services, res life, advising. I even, one summer, I think it was before my senior year, I even interned for financial aid office at my local community college one summer. Like that's how, just for fun, I wanted to do it. And I had so many folks at SUNY Oswego who really supported me during that time. I think, it's a little challenging to navigate as a first generation college student. So, I once I found my place, I had these really supportive advisors and faculty and supervisors who kind of, helped me do that. I knew I wanted to help others kind of succeed in higher ed as well, in whatever capacity that would be. So then I came to Ohio for, I thought I would stay in Ohio for about 2 years, and we're going on 10 years now. But I worked at Notre Dame College, a private college in South Euclid for, about 4 years. I was in academic affairs there, primarily worked with faculty there as well. I also earned my master's in education while I was there. And then I came to Kent State, where I am today. I'm a very proud new Flash myself, as you mentioned. I just earned my doctorate in higher ed administration this past year. So, I feel really lucky to be at Kent. I literally live in Kent. It's just the best college town, and it's a wonderful institution. And yeah, it's a great place to work.
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah. I always like these two because I've known you for years, and I always find like new tidbits of information about you that I didn't quite know. I knew that you were from a similar snow belt to me, but
yes,
now
right on Lake Ontario.
It's
very cool. cold.
It's very cool. Not too bad this winter, knock on wood.
No,
But
and during the summer when you go to visit, it's gorgeous,
very
gorgeous
nice.
down.
Not super flat like it is over here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice segue, I think, into our next question, because I would like to know how you kind of got started with transfer students. I know that when you started at Kent State, you weren't necessarily working with transfer students. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you navigated into the position you are today?
Yeah, definitely. So about 6 years ago now, I was hired to Kent as the special assistant in the Office of Alternative Credit and Articulation Agreements. The main focus really of that office was the College Credit Plus program, which is, you wouldn't be able to tell from the title of the office, but really it was the College Credit Plus office. And so my time was divided between CCP and articulation agreements as well. And, I didn't have a ton of experience with transfer students at the beginning of this work. I knew what articulation agreements involved, but I didn't have a ton of experience actually working with them. I was handed a flash drive with maybe 10 agreements on them, and they were pretty much all expired. I was told, okay, let's update these and make a lot more. And I was given a lot of freedom in that, which was really, really great. And now we have well over 150 degree pathways. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done and what we've done to kind of get where we are now. And over the years, as I know, but the folks listening may not know, we've had some reorganizations at Kent State. I went from University College into enrollment management, now into curriculum services under the provost office, as I said before. And I'm just really appreciative for all of those experiences. I learned a lot about how CCP works, which, as comes really in close contact with that transfer student experience, right? How exploratory advising works at Kent State. I learned so much about, kind of the firsthand experiences of working with transfer students when I was in admissions. And, now I take that knowledge with me as I work with the faculty and our partnering institutions on these degree pathways, as well as the state compliance as well, for sure.
Yeah.
And that insight, I think, really helps. It allows me to kind of work with all of these different entities and translate our work into language that makes sense for all of our stakeholders, I would say.
Yeah. There's also the progression of you being in like a cubicle to another hole in the wall, and then now you have the big office with a huge window in it. So you've just been moving your way up Kent State little by little in more ways than one. So thanks for that as well. I think that probably the most people listening to this have heard of a pathway, probably have pathways at their institution. 150 plus is a lot, dude. But I would assume that most institutions at least are sporting a few to double digits, some triple digits, sure. But so we're not going to get into like the nitty gritty of maybe what a pathway looks like on a sheet of paper, but we also know that there's a ton of work that goes into the background of these pathways. Some of us worked on them. I did in a former job. I don't have to anymore. And I like that because that's all you and you're good at it. But it frees me up to do the other things, obviously, because they take a lot of time. So I, just in maybe lateness terms, like, could we start from the beginning to kind of what inseminates the pathway towards the end, or the cluster of pathways that you can do with a college? Kind of like, where do you, again, like go back to the title, like Pathways 101. Could you explain kind of your process?
Sure, definitely. So, like you had mentioned, our degree pathways it's semester by semester sequences, right? It utilizes existing programs, and we match up the courses, creating course equivalencies really to the best of our ability. And I like to make this very clear, while I administratively oversee this work kind of from start to finish, any decisions on course equivalency are made by the appropriate faculty members.
Right.
The experts in their fields and in their content areas, and we really rely on them to make those determinations. And they're really willing to do that work with us. So that's great. And we're very thankful for that. I work, really closely with our credit transfer office, Misty Summers, who is just, a complete rock star, for lack of a better word. She's just the best. And
I second that real quick. Had to interject. Yeah.
Yeah, I really couldn't do any of this without that collaboration. She trained me on how to use our banner system. So since I'm trained, I'm able to actually go in and update course equivalents when they're formalized by the faculty. And we have a system for tracking those course equivalencies, the ones that are included on the degree pathways. So, if there's any change, either on her end or my end, I can make the necessary updates to all the documents and get them up to date on our website as well. So every year, the other piece of it that I'd like to talk about too is like every year I update the existing pathways. That's a huge a part of all of this work that involves, looking at our catalog changes and the catalog changes at our partnering institutions. I try to jump on that work as early as possible because, as you can imagine, it takes a very long time. My location and proximity kind of within curriculum services is really helpful because I'm with all the staff members in curriculum services who oversee those changes and make those updates in the catalog, which that involves so much work for them. In the time that I've been in curriculum services, it's been such a learning experience for me to see how much goes into all the changes that go into our catalog and into our policies and all of that. So shout out to them as well. I wouldn't be able to do this work without that collaboration either. So then in the spring into the summer, I would say late spring into the summer, I try to reconcile any changes, have the documents reviewed by the institution and our faculty, and we update the documents on our website so that they're ready for use by our amazing transfer recruitment staff who are also a big part of this work, obviously, and our prospective students as well. Yeah.
So there's also the piece that obviously has to exist even before a pathways, like inseminated, like the articulation agreement itself.
Yeah.
So do you guys have a specific kind of like template that you go to with other institutions? Okay.
Yeah, and that template even existed before my time at Kent State. We work really closely with general counsel every time we need to make an update to that template. And then, we have it active for 4 years. And like right now, this semester, I'm working with several institutions. I'm just renewing that, making sure that we're referencing in the new updated agreement, the pathways that we already have. And it allows us to continue to create more. Yeah.
So if you're going to like a new institution, so there's obviously, once you have an articulation agreement, you have to update it every so often when it expires, all of that fun stuff.
Right.
But once it's in place, pathways you can do as many as you want.
Yeah. So we like to refer to it has a very long name, but we just refer to it as like our umbrella agreement. And basically the appendix on that agreement is like an empty pathway document that says, okay, here's the template that we'll use to create these student facing documents. And then we create them underneath that overarching kind of umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of get into, how we start pathways and stuff, but say you have never worked with a community college before and there's 2 programs that are going to sync up well and you've already kind of talked about it, but that articulation agreement needs to be put in place first. How do you kind of start that conversation? I know like general counsel's involved and it's a whole big thing.
Yeah. So, and it's different for every institution that we work with, but typically what I'll do is I'll go to their academic affairs office and start the conversation there. It usually involves a provost or someone in a similar role to start having those conversations. I mean, and it really is different for every single institution because, at some institutions, they have folks that are dedicated to this work, at others they don't. So it really depends which institution I'm working with, but typically I would go through their academic affairs office, and that's kind of where we start the conversations.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So like when you're first having those conversations, because as you alluded to, every institution's different and, we're similar and different in just random ways, but do you see that template generally gets picked up by everyone? Are there, are there random things that people like to change in it?
Yeah, so, some institutions will say, we had, and usually it just goes back to what their general counsel says, what
Sure.
their lawyers look at it and say that they want to change information. So we'll look at that on a one-off basis and say,
Mhm.
okay, is this something that we can change? Or but it's pretty boilerplate, honestly, and we rarely do get changes requested. I would say it's pretty rare.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's a good way, I think, a good segue into kind of the next, because you're doing all this work on the Kent State side to set up these pathways kind of off to the side of the much larger project happening in Ohio right now, especially for at least the public institutions. I know some of the private institutions have been starting this work as well, or have been on board for a while or are thinking about it, but we have the OGTP
Mhm.
system group of OGT, whatever we call it, the Ohio Guaranteed Transfer
Yeah.
Pathways.
Initiative.
Yeah, that's a better word for it. So I know that on the Kent State side of things, you're also the lead
Yeah.
on those. So
Mhm.
could you let me know? Because I know that I hope you use this, because we kind of call them like bilateral pathways,
Yeah.
aside from the OGTPs. Could you kind of try to splice and
Yeah.
differentiate the two and kind of the importances of both, and how they
Mhm.
can complement one another?
Absolutely. So first, let me just say how much I love the OGTPs because they utilize all of these already existing
Yep.
course equivalencies that are guaranteed by the state. And it's a really to me, in my perspective, it's a really transfer friendly, student friendly document, I think. And the Ohio Guaranteed Transfer Pathways, they, like you were saying, they're the state level initiative that utilizes those existing, specifically the TAG and the OT
Hmm.
36 course equivalencies to
Hmm.
create these kind of generalized degree pathways. And I really love them because they can be used for any institution if the institution has the program, right?
Yep.
And our OGTPs and our compliance with the OGTPs result in guidance for over 250 associate to bachelor's kind of trajectories, for lack of a better word. So,
Hmm.
we create, on the other side of that, we create degree pathways that do not duplicate the work of the OGTPs. So, while there's certainly tag courses and OT 36 courses included on our pathways, we do not
Sure.
create any pathway documents for that are already OGTPs, right? Because it's
Of
just
course.
duplicating that work. Those documents too are housed at the state level, and our website links to those
Yep.
documents.
I think it would be helpful for us to link the pathways page, maybe in the description of this video.
Yeah,
So, because
definitely.
I know that I'm going to reference it later and you've already
Yeah.
referenced it and stuff. So, but yeah, Ashley does a great job of keeping all of our pathways up to date, OGTP and bilateral, all on the same page. There's transfer guides on it and stuff. So if
Mhm.
you're trying to maybe look for a template to use at your institution, I like the look of the ones that we use. I'm partial, of course, but it's got both logos on it, and it very much looks like both institutions worked on the same document, at least for the bilaterals. And then
Yeah.
obviously the state institution ones, for the student that knows they want to go to Kent State, it's really easy for them to be like, oh, biology, click. They don't have to, like, it's just done for them. And all those
Yeah.
are linked to the state pages. So it's not like they're a random document that's downloaded and then uploaded by us to the Kent website. It just straight link
It'll
to,
go right to
right.
the state's page. The other thing I want to mention too, while you were talking about it, all of the so my the degree pathways page is actually housed on admissions, and
Hmm.
I think that's a really important distinction to make, and it really speaks to the collaboration that we have within Kent State. But just having it in a place where that transfer students are looking for information, and having all that information in a centralized location, I feel like that's a goal for every single higher ed institution
Sure.
is to try to
Oh, you want,
centralize all of our
yeah.
information. But I think that having it in admissions is really important, that link is there. And I'm so thankful for, like, I work with Julie Selby in
Hmm.
admissions who updates all of those documents, and I'm incredibly grateful to
Yeah.
Julie that Julie still takes my emails and
Yeah.
makes all the changes that I request all the time. And also, I work with Joy Loper in our admissions
Yep.
graphic design area, so that we're able to kind of create logos and things like that for the documents too, so that the branding is all on the same page, which is nice.
Yeah. I think it's important too. It's
Yeah.
also super easy for me, who's in admissions, for all the pathways just to be there for students, just for me to give them to them, but then they stumble across them, I think, a little easier, because if they're thinking about Kent State, then, you know, click on the transfer page. And I think it's like the first or second thing, like right there. It's just like, look at all of these pathways we have. So it's very front and center for students, and that's exactly what we want for them, obviously.
Definitely.
So I think obviously I would know a little bit about the answer to this next question. I thought of all the questions, so I think that I already know about the questions. But when it comes to starting a new pathway, I mean, you work with out-of-state institutions, you work with in-state institutions. Obviously, Kent State, we have over 360 different degree programs within the umbrella. So it's a lot of things, a lot of degrees and programs for associate's degrees to feed into, but then also there's a lot of associate degrees out there as well. You're one person, you already do a lot. So what kind of starts the fire on some of these pathways, or like who comes to you, or is it generated in-house, or is there some external force that's pushing you that way?
Yeah. I would say, you know, we really drive the pathway development through our interactions with the community colleges. You know, we have that collaboration with them and our contacts there. We find out, you know, what is the student interest through those that work with community college students like yourself, and like, you know, all of our colleagues at our community colleges, at our partner institutions as well. And we kind of develop from there. We have instances where, you know, faculty members will have programs under the same accreditation perhaps, and they know of each other and they want to strengthen those relationships. So, you know, we've developed pathways for them. And, you know, really the faculty, I know I've mentioned this already, but they are the main driver for this work. And while I push it along and do all those administrative pieces, the decisions are made by the faculty, either through, you know, intentional decisions or unintentional decisions. For example, I mean, faculty can decide to create a number of standard equivalents that really help facilitate transfer, or on the other hand, you know, faculty may decide to revise a program without really thinking about the transfer population. So that's why I think our place in curriculum services is really important, because we can, you know, be aware of those changes in progress and start to think about how those will impact those students on the front end. So to start, I would say I draft a pathway that includes all of those course equivalents that are already in our tables. I'm able to see, again, because of the access I have through the credit transfer office, I'm able to see the last time a course was reviewed. Is it a part of any state compliance initiatives, TAG or OT36, right? And then I bring that draft to the faculty with course syllabi for courses that either are not equivalent, or maybe they just haven't been reviewed in a really long time, and I'm able to see what other additional equivalencies we can make. I know, like, through our shared grant work, we got into the habit of having faculty meetings, which was really important between the two institutions, really encouraging collaboration between, you know, two or even more faculty members from all the different institutions. And we've had, you know, situations where we've had really positive faculty collaborations and really great relationships come about. We've had one instance where one of the faculty members from our community college partner was actually a former student of the faculty member from Kent State. He specifically remembered, like, being very challenged in her class, I'll say it that way. And that was a very fun, you know, funny conversation to hear and be a part of. And it really, you know, those informal conversations really help to strengthen those relationships. But you know, after the pathway is drafted and both the institutions approve, I will put it on our website, and then I update it annually.
That sparked two follow-up questions for me. So we'll kind of play, like, let's just say, because obviously there's going to be courses that you've never seen before, and you know, maybe there's a new course at the community college we've just never seen before. It might be a good fit for our course. there's a lot of different, but like, let's just say the community college comes up with a whole new program and we're seeing how it fits into one of ours. Do you get a lump of the syllabi from those programs? Do you just ask for like, instead of just saying like, I think this course is a good match for this one, let me grab a syllabus for it, do you just ask for all of them and then take them to the faculty and be like, how would this fit into our program?
And usually I usually try to do it almost as a conversation that's separate from the pathway discussion, because it's really important that we're really focused on, is this a true equivalency? We don't want faculty making decisions specifically because they're being pushed one certain way. We want it to be an authentic, a good match for the course so that students are adequately prepared. So, we will share that information and share those. And of course I talk, they know that I'm working on pathways and such, but we try to send, if it's like a new program at the community college, I'll collect all of those syllabi and I'll send those over to the faculty and say, okay, what equivalencies can we make? What ones can't we make? And it's a lot of, me. And again, this is like the knowledge that Misty and her amazing team has kind of given me as far as like, okay, can we actually make that equivalency? Okay, here's why we can or why we can't, or what those, rules that get way far into the weeds.
Sure.
But kind of that knowledge really helps as I'm having conversations with faculty. Yeah.
Nice.
Did I answer your question?
It did. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I have the other follow-up question that I'm going to ask now, but yeah. In getting faculty, their course schedules are random times. They have office hours. Some of them teach on weekends. Some of them teach evenings. There's not too many faculty work in an 8 to 5, 9 to 5 structure. And even us as higher ed professionals, a lot of times we don't either, or it stretches. Yeah, a little cringe on that one. But, we work some weekends, we work some nights and come in early and stuff as well. So getting even local, like even if your schools are fairly local to one another, that's a really tough thing to make sure everyone's in the same room and things of that nature. So have you seen difficulties with that, or have you seen that like virtual is a good supplement for those interactions? Kind of how do you feel about that?
Oh, completely. And it's funny because we started really, that grant work started almost at the same time as us going fully remote during, the very beginnings of COVID, right? So I think it kind of, us moving to that remote format, while it was challenging for all of us to navigate at first, I think in terms of getting, like, it, just like you were saying, it is impossible to get all of these faculty in the same place at the same time if they are physically asked to be there, just between courses and, this faculty is off campus this week, all of these things. But with having the virtual option, it just makes all of these things so much easier and so much faster to push along. I know, like, we had a faculty member last semester who was on sabbatical, who was abroad. And I actually was like, okay, well, I was like, I'm sending this now just so you're aware of it, but with the understanding of like, well, I won't hear from him until next semester. But, at least I've made the initial outreach and I'll follow back up later when I know. And immediately got an email back that's like, do you want to meet tomorrow? And I think he was in Germany or something. And he was like, no, I'm really excited to work on this. And so I think that virtual option has really helped folks a lot. Yeah.
I mean, even in the sense that, so like, we're in Northeast Ohio, obviously, Kent, Ohio, 20-ish minutes northeast of Akron. There are a lot of schools up here. There are, 5 different community colleges. There's, 4 different 4-year institutions. And those are just the publics. We have privates everywhere. Like, there are a lot of places to get an education here in Northeast Ohio. So maybe the drive, we share a campus, I guess, with Stark State, but to go to Tri-C or Lakeland or something, or even Lorain County Community College, we're not far at all.
Right.
But the virtual option, you could start working with someone who's in the Dayton area or somewhere else in Southwest Ohio, and it's really not as large of a hurdle as it used to be, especially with online programs and stuff, for once they're in ground and students can do the pathways. But the pathway developments themselves, I feel like maybe it's just you and getting more time into the position, because I know that you in this position didn't precede me terribly long, and it
Right.
takes time to build up the pathways.
Yeah.
But have you seen like more outreach from people that are from far away for like our online programs, or has it been
Um,
more or less you reaching out to them?
I would say it's about 50-50.
Okay.
Where kind of the interest originates. I've definitely had some interest from like out of state schools and things like that. I would say that's definitely on the rare side still, though, to this day.
Okay.
It's more so our local folks who are
Sure.
working with really, really, really often. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's it for my follow-up questions on that big question, because we've just been talking a
Sure.
while about it. But I did want to know, because we've been talking about a lot of the nice things and the finished
Mhm.
product and how they work well for students and our website that looks nice. So we're talking about like the nice things that come about, but there's obviously some uglies somewhere on those
Sure.
paths. So are
Sure.
there what are like the larger challenges or pet peeves that you kind of see with the pathway process? I'm not asking you to like talk smack about people. That's not
Just
it at all.
I just blast a million people.
No, yeah, you can blast me. I've said this before. I am free game. Probably everyone else you should be nice to, but is there something that you see recurring enough that's not just like a wow, that was a weird one-off
Yeah.
situation?
Yeah. Um, I would say that, I think the biggest challenge is ensuring that faculty have enough time to work on these initiatives, and
Mhm.
that goes for pathways as well as state submissions, our OT36 effort. I know, it's just been a matter of, I've had faculty who said we just don't have the time to work on this semester, and it's a very valuable resource. So, we know that on that list of faculty roles and responsibilities, this kind of work, while it's incredibly important and we know why it's important and we communicate why it's important, it does often fall to the bottom, and that's just the reality of it. And I
Sure.
try to the best of my ability to do as much admin type of work with this stuff so that they're not bothered with those pieces. And I really try to make sure
Mhm.
that they are tasked singularly for their expertise and their knowledge and their coursework and that piece of it, so that I can do a lot of the I want to say like grunt work, but like the paperwork and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
for sure.
So it just, minimizes the amount of work that they need to do. But it's definitely a struggle. I know it's a struggle for my counterparts at other institutions as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the most PC like biggest pet peeve I've ever heard. No, I'm just messing with you a
I'm
little bit.
sorry.
No, no, you're funny. I know that we, been talking for a while, and I really have like I like good positive takeaways towards the end of conversations, especially about something that's more or less like an initiative, like beefing
Mhm.
up your pathways or even just starting out. Because some colleges, I mean, maybe this is still fairly new waters for them.
Yeah.
Some colleges you were kind of alluding to earlier that it might not be the person's only job responsibility to do
Yeah.
this. And I know it's not your only job responsibility.
Right.
I'm not saying that, but it could be
Right.
someone who is a faculty member who has a course load and has to also do this, or it's a dean, or it's someone in, enrollment management, in the sense that like they're helping new students enroll and then they're also trying to set this stuff up. So I did that in my old job, and it splits your brain in two ways, and it's kind of hard to go back and forth. So I
Sure.
I was very appreciative coming here, and they were like, Ashley does all that for us. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
But what is some advice that you would have for someone trying to start creating pathways or scaling up their operation?
Yeah, I think, exactly. I'm just going to like literally repeat exactly what you just said, because I think the number one thing is creating a role that oversees this type of work, like my role. It definitely helps push along these initiatives.
Hmm.
Like we've already talked about, I'm aware of those institutions that don't have folks in roles similar to myself. I'm also aware of the institutions that do have roles similar to my role, and you can tell because there's just that those pathways are there, the compliance with the state initiatives, all that stuff is there. So, you know, and I understand why, you know, that's the case, and the constraints and everything else. But if, you know, you have the folks who have the directive to do that work, and like you were alluding to earlier, I think the freedom to kind of craft it if it's something new, and to really take the ball and run with it and create something that works for your institution, because just because something works for Kent doesn't mean it's going to work for every institution. Yeah, I think that really helps. And I think the other piece too is the proximity to curriculum and faculty. I think that that's incredibly important, and as well as the proximity to advising as well. You know, my boss, Joanna Liedl, her knowledge of pretty much everything KSU related, but also her knowledge of advising and our graduation planning system, you know, that's just really indispensable. I can call her up, and I can see something that may become a problem and say, okay, what's this look like in GPS? You know, what should we be thinking about? And she can think kind of 3 steps ahead as well. So that, you know, it's not just having a person who's tasked to do the work, but also someone who's in the right place and with the appropriate connections, and the resources of institutional knowledge as well. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have no follow-up questions on that, since that was very well done. So I think that we are pretty good on time. I just want to thank you so much. I know you're probably just doing this as a favor to me, but
I'm very flattered.
Well, okay. Well, I'll run with that then. Yeah. So I hope that people can listen to this and at least, you know, try to maybe make some sense of their situation or take some advice. I'm going to assume that maybe someone would reach out to you over this.
Definitely.
So, well,
reach out to me.
Yeah.
Ask me questions. I'm happy to kind of share my insight.
Yeah. We got that email this morning, so I already knew that you were game to answer questions. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So we'll make sure she's out there. She's a fellow OTC member as well. So maybe we'll see her around in person and such. But thank you so much, Ashley. Sorry, Dr. Queen of Pathways.
Please no, please don't.
I'm gonna at least write it on a piece of paper and put it in your office. So I hope you're ready. But thank you so much for this today. And thank you for everyone for listening. We're hoping to have some more of this and some other announcements here in the near future. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.